Today. One is at 1 and the other is at 3. So if you know somebody coming in who wants to kind of do the whole treatment after they check in, bike, whatever it is, we've got 2 other meetings scheduled. If for some reason their schedule doesn't quite coordinate, usually on day 1 of our meetings, we video one of the briefings and then pop it up on the interweb. So it's either on the Facebook page or on the internet somewhere connected to the Memphis 70.3 event space on Ironman. So if there are other things. Finally, I will mention that the vast majority of what I review is available on the athlete guide. I offer a few other anecdotal comments, but largely it's a distillation of what you have probably reviewed on the athlete guide. Show of hands, who is doing their first try ever tomorrow? Look around, look around, look around, realize you're not alone. You're not alone. Good luck to you. Those of you who remember your first race, and my first one was a long time ago, and I could tell you a story about it that would probably take 20 minutes, easily. And it was just an Olympic distance thing. But enjoy your first. You only have one chance to do it first time. So we're going to talk a little bit parking. We're going to talk transition check-in today. We're going to talk about race day transition, and then we're going to go through swim, bike, and run. And then we'll talk the finish, and then we'll take care of questions beyond that. We should be rocked out of here in about 30 minutes, not including the questions. So, did anybody park in the far lot over there off of Farm Road? That is race day parking. So what you realize, you got a little bit of a walk to get in the morning. And understand that we're opening up the transition at 5, closing it, I can't do a 45, but we're closing it at 6:45. So make sure you give yourself sufficient time to park, get over, get set up, and then take a little wander down to the swim start down by the FedEx Event Center. So that is parking. Anywhere else you're parking today that is not that, does not exist tomorrow. So understand you will be directed to the Farm Road lots and you will hoof it in a little bit. Okay, just to let you know on that. Today on check-in, till 5 o'clock. All that we're asking is that you rack your bike. We don't need you to drop off anything else because you're going to be back in the morning anyhow. There are 6 bikes allocated per rack, so you got a little bit of elbow room, which is nice. You're going to rack it in such a way by the seat, if it's possible, and most of them are, either big bikes or really small bikes, they kind of get in trouble, but most of your bikes will fit by the seat. It's racked by the seat. You look at your number, it's directly below the seat. The majority of your bike, including your front wheel, is on the ground. You're standing over it. Where you check in with your gear tomorrow morning, bring a bag big enough, but not so big, that you bring just the items that you require to race in and a few other, maybe a clean t-shirt or whatever you're going to bring along. Depending on who shows up at 5 o'clock or first at your rack will determine whether your stuff is to the right of your wheel or to the left of your wheel. You just have to go with the flow. The bag that you have carried the items in with you, once it is now emptied of the things that you will require during race day, will be sort of scrunched up and tucked underneath your bike, underneath the rack. Out of your way, out of your rack mate's way, etc., etc., etc. Today in transition, all of the inflatables are up. Familiarize yourself with the run in from the swim that comes out over here in transition. The bike almost completely diagonally across, bike out. Bike in, not too far from when you come in from the swim, run out in the side, proximate to where bike out was. So become more familiar with where is my bike compared to this? Where is my bike compared to that? Become familiar with the flow of traffic today, and tomorrow will be just about doing this. Getting familiarized with things on race day is all well and good, but doing it today is going to make your life a lot easier. Ask questions if you have any. Once you're inside transition, you're looking around, you're like, where is this again? What was he talking about over there? They'll be happy to help you out. Godfather's got the cowboy hat on. The guy's a solid transition manager. He's a good guy, and he will do whatever he can to help you out. We got lots of great volunteers in there as well. Tomorrow, so that takes care of check-in today. That's happening till 5. Relay teams, where are you? I know we had some down here before. Any other relays? You are using your rack location as your exchange zone. All the relays, we think we have the better part of 100 relays participating. So we've designated a group of racks, I think down in this corner here for you all, and where your bike is, where swimmer meets biker, biker meets runner. Understand, relays, that you are the only ones in transition who at a specific time may not be actively racing. So just keep your eyes open, all right? Because others are. So let's just be safe first and racing second. So that should take care of today. Tomorrow morning, as I mentioned before, open up transition at 5, closing at 6:45. Probably amidships in transition will be 2 bottle fill stations. Might be 1, usually it's 2, 1 on each side. Those gallons of water are intended to top off what you're consuming tomorrow morning as you continue your hydration strategy. If each of you came with a single empty bottle, we would easily run out of water and not have a sufficient amount for everybody to do what they need to do. So we always ask that whatever you're going to be carrying out on the bike, bring it full in the morning and just use that water as something to top off and keep rehydrated. There are no spare bottles. All there are is those big gallon jugs. So bring whatever bottles you need. This is the time when you kind of clear out the cabinet wherever you keep all those water bottles you've accumulated. Okay. There are some porta-johns inside transition. There are some outside of transition. Typically, there are a group of them that we will keep locked until the race is underway. There are some people that still like to run in there and change clothes and do what have you. I saw a whole bunch of them over here, a whole bunch. Usually the most easiest ones to use are the ones that are less proximate to transition. So the idea of moving, of course, inside the visitor center, we got those beautiful air-conditioned facilities. So just take advantage of whatever facilities there are. And again, as I mentioned before, be judicious in the amount of space that you utilize. No buckets, no camp seats, no whatever. It's a transition area, it's not a campsite. We know that sometimes it's a little less convenient that you can't sit on something other than the ground. But remember that there are a better part of 2,000 of you. So if everybody brought a bucket, imagine the lack of room there would be. We're not trying to be difficult, we're just trying to make sure that everybody has got the space that they need to get it done. Closing up transition at 6:45. Based on the way we are running the start, with a rolling start, fastest swimmers first, not so fast as moving along. Those of you who are going to be further up in the swim start order might want to leave a little bit earlier. We will have individuals with the placards that indicate under 27 minutes, 27 to 30, 30 to 33, etc., and so on, all the way up to over 60 minutes. Know that by 6:45 you will be pushed out of transition and down to the swim start staging area, where I saw this morning was while we were having the practice swim, I saw a whole bunch of porta-johns down there too. So I mean, sometimes just getting done in transition and getting out is your best strategy, because you can go somewhere and just sit quietly and think about what the day will look like. If for some reason, I want to mention also, today the tech is here or wherever the local bike shops are. Tomorrow morning the tech is in transition. So if there's some mechanical circumstance you need to address prior to checking your bike in, get it done before, as opposed to putting it in, because once your bike's in, it doesn't go out until you're racing tomorrow. That's one other thing. In the morning, if for some reason you and your chip park company, prior to the swim start, down at the Roca Swim Start Inflatable, our timing team will have a volunteer there who is reissuing replacement chips.
Oh, okay.
So for some reason you and the chip parted company. If it happens in the water, it's your responsibility to know that and find the timing individuals at Bike Out Arch. Okay? Just prior to underneath the arch and the mountain line. So you get a replacement chip there as well. So let's get to the swim. I think I mentioned the fact that this morning at the practice swim, the water temperature was 76.4 or something like that. 76.1 is the allowable limit for wetsuits. So let's just play a game of pretend. What if it were 76.4 tomorrow? What that would mean to you is that wetsuits would not be legally allowed. And if you want to be considered for an age group place, 70.3 world slot, etc., if you have a wetsuit, you will not be considered for that. Anybody wearing a wetsuit will be moved to the back of the start order without regard for their speed and their intended swim finish time. Okay? You still will get the hour 10, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just understand that. We'll measure that first thing in the morning. By the time you roll into transition, you will know wetsuits yay or wetsuits nay. No matter what it turns out based on the water temperature currently, if you're down at the swim and you see the first two groups, pro men, pro women, not wearing them, their allowable is like 71 and change. It's got to be below that for them. Like last weekend in Augusta, it was like literally like 3/10 above, so they were all wearing swim skins. So don't be confused if you are and they aren't. So that's the story there. And again, stage yourself by your intended swim finish. Staging yourself a little slower might be a better strategy than a little faster. That's up to you. We're not judging whether you can do what you say you can do. All we know is you've indicated I'm going to be in this 35 to 38 grouping, whatever it is. Once you are down there, we will put 4 athletes in the water every 5 seconds. We've got this track that will become indelibly etched into your mind, where it's going to make a couple, 4 low beeps, 1 high beep, off you go. Over and over and over and over. But you will only hear it for a brief time. We hear it for all day. If you did the math, you took, say, 2,000, divided it by 48, you'd figure out that maybe sometime inside 45 minutes we'll have everybody in the water. So when your final beep goes off, each of you, whenever that goes off, that commences your own 1 hour and 10 to get out of the water, 5 hours and 30 to get into T2, swim and bike, and 8 hours and 30 to get to the finish line, swim, bike, run, 2 transitions. That's your own individual time. Now, suppose you started in the 40-minute group, and suppose your swim was 1 hour and 12 minutes, and you get out of the water and you look at your watch, you're like, oh. But then you're thinking, are they going to stop me? No, we're not, because the hard 110 hasn't hit yet from that last person in the water. Keep going, get through all the cutoffs, the rest of it. If you make your way through the line, we start to looking at the results. We take anybody 110 or over, put in the DNF at 5:30 and over, DNF 8:30 and over, same thing. Keep moving unless an official or a member of the staff stops you. When we get the final person in the water, that becomes the race's hour 10, 5:30, 8:30. And I think what I mentioned earlier before we got the briefing underway, I think we calculated our cutoffs that we have published as being based on a larger turnout and more time to get people started. I think we were figuring an hour versus probably what will turn into about 45 minutes. So what that means to you is we've given you 15 minutes credit. But you still have that, you still have your own. That's course credit, that's not individual credit. Okay? 1 hour and 10, get out of the water. 5 hours 30, get to T2. 8 hours 30, get to the finish line. And there's 2,000 of those times. There's one for every single one of you. And then there's one for the entire race. Clear? Keep going otherwise. In the water, this could be something that I heard from a lot of people. The water was great, it was fabulous, it was nice, all this. And there's probably other people like, oh my God. It's a very unusual place in that some people are very comfortable with it and some people are not comfortable with it at all. We encourage you to take advantage of any of the safety assets we have there. Even if it's something I always say as simple as just, you gotta stop, grab onto something because you gotta move your goggles around. Or you gotta stop 3 buoys in because you're breathing a little heavy and you think if you just stop for a minute and take a couple of deep breaths, you'll be okay. We're good with all that. Do what makes sense and what is safe to you. If along the way you find that you need a little more help, just give us one of these somehow. Just get the attention. We've got lots of assets in the water and on the water. If while you're navigating your way around, you pop your head up and you see something that's like, whoa, hey, over there, just help us out. Because that could be you. We are in this together, and if we consider each other and the actions that we take, everything's a little bit better. So again, utilize the assets that we have. Want to remind you, that, where's the line? Hold on, I gotta go back and read this properly. One moment, please. During each of the briefings, we talk about weather, each element along the way. This is every briefing. This is not just Memphis. We monitor the weather on race day. Reserve the right to cancel, modify, or shorten any portion of the event for safety considerations. Also want to remind you that this is a natural body of water. This is in every briefing I've ever done. It's subject to currents, obstructions, and weather conditions. Please listen to your bodies and listen to this. Use common sense. How about that? Imagine that. Now, if we are in a non-wetsuit legal circumstance, you might be wearing some type of skin or whatever. I'm not going to get into the whole litany of possibilities. If you're wondering if this is okay or if that is okay, Jay Weber is our head referee. He and his team can share with you. It's all a textile thing. I'm not going to get into it because it gets rather ponderous, but if we are in a non-wetsuit legal circumstance, it's got to have some type of textile nature to it. We talked about the lost chips, glasses table. Got to get down to swim finish and drop off that item that you need to pick up there in advance of your race start. Put it in a bag, properly mark and number it, okay? 1 hour and 10 each of you to get out of the water, and ultimately that 1 hour and 10 finally. Anybody walk the swim out into transition route to the extent that you can? There's a fair amount of territory. You're going to be making some steps. Once you get up the ramp, that should be the end of the swim. That commences what will be a rather long T1 time. So don't be bummed out, everybody's doing it. Everybody's covering the same territory ultimately. When you get out of the water, remember that you've been using mostly your upper body throughout. So those first few steps on land are a little bit like, whoa, what's going on? So just use a little bit of extra caution getting up out of the ramp. We'll have volunteers there. It is a boat ramp. It's got the usual boat ramp activity. There can be a little bit of greenery floating around there, but we'll do the best that we can to make sure you safely get out of the water. In the transition, on goes all bike stuff, off goes all swimming stuff, and away you go out onto the course. Mountain line just outside. And again, when you check in today, there's probably the A-frame already up there, shows mountain line. So again, familiar. That's where it is. Not a surprise. Making your way out onto the bike, we're going to do our best to cover the speed bumps. We're going to try to put ramps up as necessary, but there may be a scenario where there's enough of you that maybe going over that speed bump may be the most expedient way to make your way out onto the bike course. We're asking you to consider this area inside the park before you get out to the roadway. Sort of consider it like a non-competitive section, because mostly what can happen are bad things rather than good things. So early on, the bumps, and at the very end, same thing again. Remember, expect it, plan on it, and prepare for it, and it won't be a problem. I know that somebody will not think about this, and I don't want that to affect you. Right to the right, pass to the left, get out of the way. I'm on your left. The roads are open, despite the fact that we've coned off and sectioned off sections of the roadway for you and you alone. You know how it works. We will have official vehicles, we'll have staff vehicles, we'll have roving tech from PlayTry out there. And the occasional non-official vehicle makes it out there just despite our best efforts to keep the roads you and you alone. Use common sense. If a non-official vehicle gets out there, they're more flipped out by what they found themselves in than you are. Because they're thinking, what am I doing here and how do I get out? Just remember that a bike, no matter how big it is always smaller than a car. It's no time to take on somebody on that basis. Ride to the right, pass to the left, get back to the right. This is something I've said at so many of the meetings. I do believe that operator error is the biggest risk to a safe and successful bike conclusion for each and every one of you. The golden rule of racing applies. Consider what your actions, the effect it has on others. I say quite often, on your left is like saying to that person, I love you. Because now they know you're coming up upon them. And if they see one of these spots that our bike team has circled in orange, that's something they may want to avoid. They hear on your left, they think, oh, I'll go to the right, as opposed to the left, and there the two of you meet and attempt to break the laws of physics. Two bodies, same place, and it turns out well. So again, ride to the right, pass left, get back to the right, and communicate with each other. If you do that, life will be a lot easier. Several steep climbs, beautiful scenery. Anywhere we feel there's something you need to be aware of, we will put some type of A-frame out there. Caution, sharp turn. Rough roadway. I don't know that we cross over tracks here or not, but if we did, they will be covered. There will be a notation of it. There won't, no tracks? Somebody's, okay. But last weekend in Augusta, 2 sets of tracks. I didn't hear anybody after the race talk about the tracks because we had it covered and we took care of it. Literally, we had it covered. We want all bikes on the course by 9:27. That's that 1 hour 10 plus a little bit of time in T2, obviously. Out on the course, 3 aid stations serving up a buffet. They're approximately every 15 miles. Starts with the discard zone, because that bottle that's now empty that you're going to replace, you got to get rid of it, right? So you've got a space that begins the discard zone, and at the far end of the whole aid station ends the discard zone. Cage compatible water, first and last on the tables. Cage compatible Gatorade Endurance Formula, orange, lemon, lime, second, and second to last. Red Bull and the foods, including the Morton gels, both caffeinated and non-caffeinated, the Quantum Energy Squares, and Fig Bars. Great volunteers, porta-johns, basic first aid, and radio communications. If you're having some bike troubles, if you can get to an aid station, we can radio in, hey, I got somebody who needs such and such at aid 3, aid 1, whatever it is. It might lessen the time from when they get to assist you to continue on. How many people have actually pulled over at a bike aid station and got what they needed? Thank you. Smart. Sometimes it's very difficult, depending on what's going on, to grab a bottle of something at, even 15 miles an hour. Our volunteers are great, but they're not miracle workers. So if stopping seems like a good idea, somewhere out on the run course, you might be like, oh, I so wish I would have gotten that bottle of Gatorade at Bike Aid 2. Pull over safely, get what you need, commence on. Thank the volunteers. Thank the volunteers. If you need anything at that point, they'd be happy to help you. After all the tables have been concluded, you're going to have about 75 to 100 yards, final discard. Outside of that, anything that's thrown away by you outside of that designated area, witnessed by an official, gets you this blue card. It's as bad, we see it as bad as drafting, because the only way we can continue to come back to the communities that we're a part of is by being good citizens and being good guests. And by doing that, it's like no part left behind. So get rid of your stuff in the designated area. Designated area will be good to go. Let your volunteers know what your preference are. If you don't plan on stopping, move out to the outside, slow down just a little bit. It can be a pretty crazy scene, because the bottle that someone in front of you missed might not be that bomb that's spinning towards your skinny little tire. So again, just keep your eyes open. Roving tech on course, they are not your pit crew. They won't exactly be there right at that moment when you needed them. There's an expectation that you are self-sufficient as it relates to basic mechanical issues. And again, here we are again with the red print in every single athlete briefing. If weather dictates, seek shelter on the course. Ironman course staff along the course will aid athletes to find the nearest shelter as well. This is in every single athlete briefing. This is not related to what's going on here. Looks like weather's going to be pretty decent, maybe a little chance of showers in the afternoon. We have one cutoff on the bike course. It's right about 43 and a half miles. Got to be there by 12:35, and we need to have you off the bike in T2 by 1:35. That's that 5 hours 30 plus. We built in just a little bit of time. You got some course credit, if you will. And again, each of you has an individual 5 hours 30 to get into T2. Bike enters down here. Run into transition, because you know exactly where your bike is. Off goes all bike things, on goes all run things. You loop around, out you go, and you're out onto the run course. Big loop around the lake, kind of a loop around. It's kind of like a really odd shaped figure 8. And in this section where you connect between these upper and lower 8s, there's an opportunity for an able-bodied a spectator, family, friend, coach, what have you, to probably catch you 5 times. They got the tracker on them, and that doesn't include the finish line. So there are some opportunities to see each other and also for your people to see you as well. 2 loops, 6 aid stations, 1 water station. So figure, about a mile in between. So pretty regular. Same scenario in cups, water at either end. Gatorade, Endurance, Lemon, Lime, second to last. Red Bull, Cola, the Morton Gels, Quantum Energy Squares, Fig Bars, chips, pretzels, bananas, oranges, Active Ice at Run Aid 1. Radiocom, volunteers, Porta Johns, basic first aid, all of these things. Medical gators out floating around. If your day's not quite turning out like it should, maybe there's a moment where you gotta look at yourself and think, maybe it's not today. Get to an aid station if you can, and we'll take care of it. It's not the plan, but sometimes it's just the way it works out. There are 2 cutoffs on the run course. One is just about halfway. It's at aid 7, it's at 3:05. The final one is just before you begin the upper part of the figure 8. You do the lower part first, the upper part second. That's just as you start second lap, a little over 8.5 miles, 3:35. I think 4:35 is the final opportunity. Again, weather dictates, seek shelter. Use a little bit of common sense as we ask all along. If for some reason your day concludes other than the finish line, please let us know. Volunteer, staff, what have you, especially out on the course. Suppose your bike has some type of mechanical that just doesn't allow you to go on forward. You got to bike 3. Your people are wondering, wow, it's been like an hour and a half and they haven't made it from the 3rd bike check, whatever it is. Please get somewhere, let us know. It's not what you planned, it's not what we planned for either, but that way we can get your name into comm, we can let people know that you're okay, that your day ended a little bit prematurely, but you're okay. That's the important thing for us, is to make sure that you're accounted for. So anything that happens prior to the finish line, please let somebody know on the staff. We'll collect your chip, we'll radio it into our communications crew, and we'll be good to go. Reminder, again, this is all a little bit of legalese. I'm just going to read it very, very clearly. We reserve the right to remove an athlete from the course and DNF the athlete if our course staff determines there's no possibility of their finishing the discipline or race before the posted cutoff times based on your location, the time, and average speed to that point. Okay, that's just our legal department smiling somewhere. So, finish line. You alone have not gotten to that point. Many people have contributed to your effort to get to the finish line. But the celebration inside the finish line chute is yours and yours alone. Don't bring anybody else. If you don't have a timing chip on your ankle, don't come through the finish line. Relay runner, collect the necessary number of items for your relay. Some relays are 2, most are 3. Enjoy the opportunity. Take it all in. You'll be able to celebrate with your people after the fact. It's all about you. Get whatever we're giving out, whether it's a cap, taking photos, get the medal. Enjoy the moment. Post-race activities, the food will be catered by one and only. There is no post-race massage, part of our protocol going on. At approximately 1:30 or so, we'll commence bike checkout till 5:30. You've got a ticket in your packet that allows somebody other than you to collect your items. In an event like this, unlike in an Ironman where they can get it, while you're out on that marathon run, in an event like this, that usually means that you're not able to collect your stuff. Not the best scenario, but nonetheless, if you're here with somebody who's not participating, give them the checkout ticket and hope they don't have to use it. That's what it's there for. It's not a requirement, it's just an option. 4:30 on stage, I'll be up here. Starting with our award ceremony, we'll recognize pro women, pro men. We'll start with youngest age groupers and we'll move our way up to the eldest groups. Once that is done, we'll take about a minute or 2 to organize the slot allocation. We've got 30 slots for the Ironman 70.3 World Championships. It will again revisit St. George late October next year. Based on, we had 30 last week in Augusta, and it was like 20 guys and 10 women. So depending on starters, depending on finishers, it'll be somewhere in that neighborhood. If everything goes according to plan, we will have everything done in 1 hour's time. Goes pretty quickly. So if you want to go to St. George next year, hang out, but we won't keep you here forever. Mark your, if we are wearing wetsuits, or if you are wearing a wetsuit, if your name is not in it, put your name in it. They look so similar that when you leave, you're like, you get home, you're like, that's not my wetsuit. So somebody else has got not my wetsuit. Questions? I've concluded my part of the briefing. Anybody? Question? Come on, somebody can go first. Yes. Yeah, the parking is all out at farm roads. You won't get past that. You won't get in down here. I don't know when we're closing roads down, but with transition closing at 6:45, I'd imagine it probably won't be any earlier than 6:30 or so. If you need more information, you got to go to an info tent or over there. I'm not sure the specifics on when it closes. Yes, sir.
So more information, if I've got a spectator that needs handicap, are there any special provisions? Do I need to check with information?
The gentleman was asking about what if you have a handicap sticker or something. Yeah, I think you need to check inside or go to one of our, where we're managing the info table. I think that would be the best. I wish I had an answer for you, but I do not. So I would check inside there. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, there'll be, it will be very obvious. We will have sheriffs. I think they're already there today. They're also already down here keeping you from entering. But yeah, we will roll people in. It's very early in the morning, so there should be 90% of the traffic should be race related. Yeah, right behind. Yeah, she's asking about bike check-in today. We're only checking bikes today. Everything else comes with you tomorrow morning. Remember, it's a transition area, not a campsite. Yes? Yeah, when you go down to down the yellow line, there's going to be a red turn. It's going to bring you back, and you're going to finally make a left into the swim finish. I don't think all the buoys are set up down at the end. I saw a cluster of them somewhere. That may be, I'm not certain of that. I saw that down there and was a little confused as well. Red buoys are always turns. The vast majority of them are right turns until you get to the very end. There's like a little, like 3 stages of something. You make a left turn into the swim finish. Oh. You want to keep the buoys to your right except that final left turn. Yeah, everything else is to the right. Yes. No, if you are wearing a wetsuit, depending on the circumstances, we will get somebody to unzip if it's wetsuit legal. Otherwise, you're on your own from that point forward. Yes. Will we already know what the water temperature is first thing in the morning? Yeah, we're not only going to do that, we won't have it posted, but we'll let our volunteers know. And I'll be making interminable announcements. And right after I make the announcement, somebody will walk over and say to me, what's the water temperature? That's how it goes. Yes. Yeah, they can watch anywhere along here they want. As long as you're not in the field of play, as long as you're outside of the barricades and the rest of it, you can go almost anywhere. Yeah, I mean, the hard thing is a lot of people are wearing a pink cap or a green cap. So it might be difficult to know it's you versus you. Yes? Probably get no closer than over there at the parking lot. So there's probably no benefit to that. You're not going to get inside the park. You're going to be over there to the farm road lot. I think it's asking about ice out on the bike aid. I believe the only ice you're going to find is on the run aid stations. I think anything we're keeping cool is to keep the product cool. That's the plan. Hey, Brant.